Are you like me and kind of confused about chakras and like what they do and where they are and all the things? Then you're in the right spot. Today's guest is Deanna Gabriel-Vierck, a shamanic energy healer, an herbalist, and our chakra educator. At the end of this episode, you will be able to fully understand the chakra system, its influence and connection to our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. AKA, you have a back problem, you will know what chakra it's connected to and how to work with it. And the best part is that Deanna provides practical tips for working with the chakras. It's all energy, baby. And if you are new here, you're listening to the How We Get Thru podcast, a place for you to feel connected through deep and meaningful conversations with healers from all over the world. I'm your host, Jen, a licensed therapist and founder and CEO of the How We Get Thru app. And my mission is to bring you affordable and diverse therapy resources to help you get through the hard stuff all in one place and at your own pace. Welcome to the How We Get Thru community. Welcome back to the How We Get Thru podcast. You guys, we have another exciting episode. We have Deanna Gabriel-Vierck, who is a shamanic energy healer and one of my close friends. And so I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you, Jen. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Please tell everybody what a shamanic energy healer is.
Absolutely. So it's kind of two things blended together. There are a couple, the term sort of evolved through my professional evolution. But basically what that means is I am working with people to support their full energy expression. So we all have an energy field, the energy of our emotions, the energy of our mind, the energy of our biology. So we're working to optimize that energy. And when we pair that with shamanic work, it's like entering into a waking dream state where the practitioner who's working in that shamanic realm is really kind of co-creating and co-facilitating the healing with other spiritual entities. So we can look at that from lots of different perspectives. Some people might say you're working with angels. Some people might talk about working with guides. There's lots of different language that you can use for it. But basically, it's an intentional co-creation with divine energies for the purpose of facilitating growth, healing, and balance in an individual.
And what do you call that? Or call who you connect to?
I am really open to lots of terms. There are really, some people have words that feel a little loaded or triggered for them. I don't have that, luckily. So I'm really open with my words, but my natural words are to talk about working with my guides. I do work with beings that I would call angelic energy and angels. So it's a lot of that of our guides and spirit animals.
I love
things
that.
of that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's so the more people that I interview and talk to, it's so personal, right? And so that's why I kind of wanted to know what it was personally like for you and really honoring that, even as you help other people. But it's just really, it's interesting as I'm learning about myself too. It's like, okay, well, what is here? What do I believe in? What is my lens in all of this? And so I think it's a good grounding spot.
Yeah. And when I work with people, that's one of the things that I always want to know is, what words do you like to use when you're referring to a higher power or greater source? Because some people do have experiences in their lives where certain words just don't fit well. And then if we have that going on in the work, then there's a dissonant chord there where we're now struggling against language rather than just dropping into the pure energy. From my perspective, it doesn't matter what word you use. It's really all pointing at the same thing. But I think it's important to honor that some people do have experiences where they really take comfort in a particular set of words, or they really would rather not work with other sets of words. So
yes, I love it. Okay, how did you get here? How did I mean, as long or short as you want, but how did you kind of become, I guess, awakened to everything and in this field?
Well, it was not something that was a part of my life growing up. When I tell the story, I mean, I can go back to when I was in my early 20s and graduating from college. I had a very mainstream Midwestern life. Went to the doctor for antibiotics. At one point in time, I think there was like ding dongs for breakfast, like it was not a life of like health and awakeness. And, it was just like, it was regular, we didn't think anything of it. It was just like the way we did things. I went to school, I studied biology and public relations and I finished school and I started to travel a little bit. And honestly, I was in like a wild phase of life. I moved to the Caribbean for a while and just like had fun bartending and playing on boats and the beach. And then I followed some friends to Denver, Colorado, and was just kind of like living that like nightlife lifestyle. And obviously my physical body was starting to not enjoy that. Those choices were not going well for me. And so I had studied biology in school, and I really loved my botany courses. And I had this experience one morning after, I'm sure I had like worked at the bar and like stayed up and ate some like nasty, greasy burger at like 2 a.m. after having alcohol or something, like something just totally unhealthy. And of course, my digestive system is just a wreck. And I had this moment where I woke up in bed and I was just laying there, like feeling the discomfort. And it was literally as if like the clouds parted and like this angelic voice was just like the plants actually can do healing work within you. It's not just about cataloging these the genus and species. So I'm a shamanic energy healer, but I got my roots in studying to be an herbalist and a nutritionist. That was really the first steps into this awakening process. So I quickly jump out of bed and start looking like, how do I study this? Where do I go? What do I do? And so I eventually get pointed to a clinical herb school that was in Boulder, Colorado, just 30 minutes outside of Denver. And I just jump in. I go all in. And the first day of class, we're sitting in a circle because it's herb school. And we like to sit in circles.
I love it. Yes. So good.
And everyone's talking about, their experience. And to me, I'm sitting there in the circle like, what in the hell? How did I get here? One of these things does not belong. And it is me, like listening to all these people my family did this and that, and they worked with these plants. And I get to myself and I'm like, I feel like I just tripped over a rock and landed in this chair in this room. But it was this beautiful experience that just started piece by piece, lesson by lesson, this profound healing journey that I went into and fell in love with plants and how they can help us. And then the thing that really hooked me in a deep way was beginning to understand that plants have a consciousness and that there's an energetic resonance there and a conversation that we can have with them. And looking at the energy of plant medicine. So I love, making teas and tinctures and working with physical plant medicine. But the thing that really enchanted me and caused, big doors to open was this understanding that the natural world has a voice and that we can speak with them, with all of nature and individual, pieces of nature through plants and understand ourselves in a way that we might not otherwise. So that was the doorway into really dropping into this energy world. And I studied plant spirit medicine and a type of plant medicine called flower essences, which is just a pure vibrational frequency from plants. And that led to an exploration of what happens when we put these plant frequencies of flower essences on our bodies topically? What happens? Because flower essences are really medicines that target the emotional, energetic space of the body. So we can understand like, if you have fear, there's a plant remedy for that fear. Or if you're feeling stress or depression, there's plant remedies that really help vibrationally shift the ground for us. So I started exploring, what happens when I use these plant frequencies topically on people's bodies? And in particular, when we interact with the energy bodies called the chakras and start working with these plant frequencies through the lens of chakras. And then that led me to feel like, oh, I need to learn more. And so I started studying an energy medicine called healing touch. That's all about energy anatomy, which is a term that I got from that study that I loved, because I think that there is a really practical way that we can look at our energy field. It's not all this sort of spiritual woo-woo world. We can really
like
start to look and define exactly, like there is an anatomy of the unseen in the body, and we can start to interact with that. And when we do, then we really start shifting the ground on our mental, emotional wellness, as well as our physical wellness and our spiritual evolution. So that work then led for me to add shamanic training into, because I was like, well, we're working with the energy anatomy now, and I'm feeling all of this presence around me. So I need a structure to understand like how to intentionally work with that world. And so now it's become this sort of like beautiful conglomerate of all of these different pieces of co-creation of healing.
Okay, so plant felt like the physical.
Yeah.
The energy is the emotional, and then the shamanic is the spiritual. Like it feels like the three. I mean, I don't know if that is like, it's not clear cut, but it just felt like it's like this one step you took that took you to this next step, took you to this next step, to holistically look at healing.
Yeah, that's a great way to break it down. Yeah, because I did come to the work physically first.
Right.
And then began through all of that to understand, oh, well, you know, I think most of us are starting to get an understanding of how integrated all those pieces are. We can't do something on the physical plane with our bodies without it also impacting our mental, emotional space, and then also having some type of influence over the understanding that we have of ourselves as a spiritual being, and that process of healing and evolution. So, and the vice versa, if you do something on the spiritual plane, then, you know, you cause a reaction on all of the other planes as well. It's really just, I think about it as like we have these kind of three lenses that we can look through to understand different aspects of ourselves. Like you can look at your face front in the mirror, and that gives you some information, but then you turn to the side and you see a different view, but you're still looking at you, and you're still looking at a whole being.
I love that example. Oh, okay. So let's talk about chakras.
Okay.
I want to know all the things. So chakras is the energy we're talking about in this way, which can be emotional, but then also spiritual and physical.
Yes.
Like they're like the center of it.
They influence all of it.
Okay.
So a breakdown, let's talk about it through energy anatomy. So within our body, we have chakras, and basically chakras are energy centers, powerhouses that are located in really particular places in the body. What creates a chakra is they're meridians of energy. So I like to think of it, if you're looking at like the earth and river systems and streams, and they converge together. And so where two rivers start to connect, you have an increase in energy, right? As you watch the stream connect with the river, and then this river connect with that river, and then it goes into the ocean, and there's a big surge of energy there. So our chakras are created by these streams of energy, these meridians through the body. And there's lots of traditions that have mapped out meridians. We can look at, you know, Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. Both of those systems really look into meridians and how the energy flows. That's the principles of acupuncture. You're tapping into those meridians to open up the flow or to shift it, to change the way the energy is moving. So those meridians are moving in our body and converging at these certain points, and they create a chakra. So we have 7 main chakras that move through the center of our body. So if anyone is familiar with chakras, these are probably the ones that you've heard most about. Your root chakra, your sacral chakra, your solar plexus, your third eye. So these are your heart chakra. So these are a little bit more commonly understood. And they're larger energy centers, which means there's just more meridians converging into those points and creating a flow and a spin of this energy. But then we also have minor chakras all over our body, and they're usually located where we have a physical joint, like your shoulder joint or your elbow, your wrist, knees and hips, and in the ankles and feet.
Yeah.
So those chakras also influence all the things, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. They just have a little less energy moving through them because there are fewer meridians converging into those points. And each chakra really governs its own world and aspect of our being. But just as the baseline of understanding chakras, it's a system of energy connecting together and creating momentum.
And because I've done the chakra, like you have a pendulum and see like if it's open or closed or balanced, I don't know. But they spin different ways, right? Like one will go this way and then the other one will go that way.
They usually move in a clockwise fashion when they're in alignment. So, so the way our chakras are stacked, let's talk about the 7 main ones. The root chakra is located right at the base of like the pelvic floor, around the base of the hips, and it radiates down our legs almost like a skirt. So it's moving and spinning, but the energy is flowing around our legs and down into the earth. So it's a really anchoring energy. And then when you move up into the pelvis, your second chakra, which is right above for women where our uterus is, our womb space, then the energy starts spinning around the body. So the root goes down toward the earth. And then you get just above the root to the sacral chakra. And then it starts to spin in a clockwise fashion around the torso of the body. And then they stack from there all the way up until you get to the crown chakra at the top of your head. And that mirrors the root and radiates up. So actually like a crown. And so its spinning energy anchors you up into cosmic energy, whereas the root chakra anchors you down into the earth plane.
The ground.
And then you have these middle chakras spinning out. And those chakras create different layers of our energy fields. So what some people would call the auric field. And we all have that, the space around our body. And most people are way more aware of it than they might realize, because we can feel when someone steps in, you feel this like a bristle. You could have your eyes closed and notice when someone like puts a hand close to your face or steps close to your body. They're interacting with the energy field that the chakras create through their spinning. They make different layers.
I love that.
And those spinning layers create that field. And it's usually when it's healthy and in alignment, it's a couple of feet out.
Okay.
But sometimes it can expand really far out. And we can consciously work with that, expanding it far, far out. Or if we need to, maybe I'm in a really busy place and it feels like I kind of want to tighten it up. You can learn to kind of shrink your field in, where it hovers a little closer to your body.
Are some people born with a bigger energy around them and smaller, or is it like all of us have this one? I mean, in your experience, and we can't generalize.
But that's a great question, Jen.
I know. I don't know.
I mean, I think there's a lot of individual variance for sure. One of the things that you'd mentioned using a pendulum to test the chakras. So when I am testing a chakra, I do use a pendulum, and that will tell me whether that chakra is open and in a flow. And it also gives me the information of how much vitality or energy is moving through that chakra. So if the pendulum is moving in a huge circle, that tells me there's a lot of energy here. If it's moving really small and tight, then there's maybe some restricted energy. It might be quote unquote open, but there's a bottleneck in the flow. Or maybe if it's super, super open, then maybe we've got too much flow here. And the balance would be to even it out. Because we really want kind of a nice, even flow through the chakras. And you might engage with one chakra or another and kind of open it up a little bit more. But ultimately, we kind of want to come back to that even baseline where everything is balanced.
What is can you kind of pinpoint a feeling of when something is unbalanced, or what is the feeling when they are imbalanced, and why is that important?
Yeah.
I
think let's look at it first from a place of balance. And I think a lot of us are becoming familiar with this concept of flow state, right? Where you just feel like you're on point. You are navigating in a really fluid way, one thing to the next. Your mind feels quiet and clear, but energized and alert. You're not emotionally triggered at the moment. You're really feeling pretty steady. And if something comes through, an experience, you're able to watch that happen and use your rational brain and make choices. So you're really in that seat of control in making choices. And your body physically will often feel as good as it could feel. Some people are working with various things, and so you might have some physical sensations. Chakra healing can definitely help with that as well. But in general, when things are balanced, we're physically feeling pretty relaxed and comfortable in our bodies. And we have that clear mind and an easy, fluid energy with our emotions, not getting triggered or upset. So that's when you can kind of go, all right, I think I'm in alignment.
I need that right now.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
Because we all want to be like that all the time.
That sounds great. Yeah.
But the thing is that, even if you're really, really practiced and you're engaged all the time, you don't get to live there always, because we are in a human body here on the earth, and it is full of complications and experiences that push us. And so we essentially, just to put it kind of basically, we fall out of balance. And there's actually a beauty in that, because it tells you, oh, there's a vulnerable point or a blind spot, or there's something for me to lean into and work with and grow around. So when we fall out of balance, then we start to feel the effects of that. And often the first thing that's impacted is our mental emotional experience. So we'll start to feel uncomfortable emotions creeping in more consistently. We might notice that our mind is not as kind or serene.
Yeah.
It can be chaotic, or a voice starts to kick up. We all have those critical voices that really
judgmental.
are there to kind of tear us down a little bit. That might get really loud, so that is sort of the first plane that you start to feel something. Or you might feel just a sense of like something is off. Your spidey senses are just starting to tap in that something is out of balance, and that's a little bit more advanced when we start to notice that level of disturbance. But when we start to feel that something is off, something's not quite right, and now I'm starting to feel emotion, and now I'm starting to feel compromised mind space, and we ignore that.
Yeah.
We don't work with it. We don't look at it and seek to understand what's happening. Then it starts to compound, and now we've got lots of energy buildup happening. And now we start feeling effects on the physical plane. Because the physical body is an energy vessel, really. We're 99.9% energy. There's almost no solid matter anywhere in the universe, but in our bodies, it's a really important thing to stop and think about, that we're almost all energy. So when there's an energetic disturbance and we get cues on those spiritual, mental, emotional planes, and we don't stop and consider them and start to work with them, then we start to feel a headache, or we start to feel tired and run down. And then if we still aren't listening, now we might start to have chronic neck pain. And then if we're still not listening, then maybe that throws some spinal alignment out. And now we've got, something going on in our hip. And then now we're unstable physically, and now we fall and have an accident. And, so it starts really compounding. And what's happening in all of these experiences is that our energy is really just trying to get your attention. It's trying to say, hey, there is something to work with here. And I'm just going to keep getting louder and louder and louder and louder until you stop and consider what's going on. And there's a whole host of challenges that we then engage in when we don't want to hear that voice, and we try to quiet it down and numb it down.
Yes.
And then we start engaging in activities and choices that are not good for us. And then we just compound the
and
challenge.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but I do think it's very common. I don't know. This was my experience of physical. It was physical first. And then I go to the doctor and they're like, we don't know what's wrong with you. And I'm like, okay, well, there's something else here that I need to tap in from another place that really sparked so much healing and continues to do that. And so again, it's just that that we aren't just one thing, or we aren't physical, but sometimes it comes primarily from physical because it's a little bit louder.
Yeah.
It's a little more inconvenient. It's a little more show-stopping, if you will, to get that attention that you're talking about.
That's right. But when you start to become a little more sensitized, then you'll notice that there was a cue that predated that physical. But most of us, myself included, miss it. We don't hear it all the time.
Yeah.
And then we start feeling those physical things show up.
Is there a certain, like if I have a hip problem, is it related to a certain chakra, or that's a weird question?
It's not a weird question. You know, I think, so that would be a minor chakra in the hip, right? So the minor chakras, we can think about them being related in terms of the influence that they have over us to the large chakra that's in closest proximity. So hip would make me think, okay, let's look at what's going on in the root chakra, which is that base of the torso, right at like the pelvic floor and legs, and also the sacral chakra, which is in the low abdomen where, you know, your uterus is for women, the seat of the womb. So I would look at those things. The hip itself has its own particular influence as well. So maybe it would be good to talk. Do you want to hear a little bit about what the influences are of each of the main chakras? So that can be helpful. So why don't I start with just explaining those first two to kind of keep it tight with your example.
Perfect.
So our root chakra is root is in the word. It's a stabilizing chakra. It's about being grounded. The energy of that chakra is related to the element of earth. So it's the energy that really helps us become embodied, where our energy is anchored into the physical form, and then our bodies are anchored into the physical world of the earth. And associated with that root chakra is our survival, like everything that we need to make it. So meeting our basic needs. Yeah. Do you have food, water, shelter,
money?
Money. Exactly. So all of the things that we need to feel secure and stable, like we're not questioning our sense of survival. I think community also can be a big part of that. Basically it's about safety. Do you feel that it's safe for you to let go and let down and inherently trust that you're cared for and provided for? And so that is a big thing. Think about all the trouble that many people have with like legs and pelvic floor and feet.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is really related to our sense of stability and comfort in our ability to trust. Then our sacral chakra, if we go up one, that's located in the low abdomen, now we start to get into the element of water, which makes sense, right? Like the low abdominal, there's a lot of fluid moving there. So women, we have our menstrual cycle. All of us have the digestive organs there. It's a watery place where fluid, our bladder, it's a place where things need to flow. So this is about being in flow. So it's about our ability to emotionally regulate. So when we feel a big emotion, can we experience that, but then flow out of it without getting stuck? So like, can you feel a sense of righteous anger when something inflames you and it's intended, like it's the right response is to get angry? Can you feel that? And then also know when it's time to let that go and move into something else. And a lot of times we get stuck emotionally into one thing. So that watery energy of the sacral chakra helps us have emotional fluidity. But it's also a place of pleasure. When you think about, the things that please us, it's sexual pleasure is a part of it, but it's so much bigger than that. It's sensual pleasure.
Yeah.
It's taking in beauty around you. It's listening to things that make you feel wonderful. It's feeling the sensation of the sun on your skin and how that might awaken a sense of warm pleasure. So it's a place of engaging in all the pleasing things that exist in this life. And when we're in a state of balance in our sacral chakra, we're able to drop into that pleasure space and let it guide us.
Which is so interesting because my healing journey was starting there. I had an insane cramping in my stomach, and the doctor's like, I don't know what I'm doing. They don't know what's happening. I went to get a colonic, and my friend who's intuitive, she's like, something here from like 9 to 12. It is like, it was like 2 to 9 or so. I don't know, whatever ages that I was like, I couldn't even get through a colonic. I couldn't even get to the third intestine of a colonic. And so when you talk about emotions, and then I did a lot of the emotion code work, it was all a lot of trapped pieces that I hadn't worked through, that my body was acting up. So it's a whole long story.
Yeah.
But when you say that, I'm like, holy shit, this is it.
Light connections.
Yes. And I, being a therapist, I'm like, oh, I figured stuff out. No, you didn't.
No, for all.
But the things that I wasn't tending to was screaming.
Yeah.
Screaming.
Yeah.
And it just made a lot of sense. So I had to bring that in.
Beautiful. Well, and then like to bring the hip in there. So now the hip is sort of related to that stability, but also fluidity, right? Because we want our hips to be open and moving. And a lot of times they get tight, and the hips have an energy resonance of storing old energy and past story, right? So if there's a lot going on that we haven't unpacked yet, we haven't looked through, then of course that's going to be kind of compounding in that hip joint and in that hip chakra. And so now your mobility is restricted, your sense of pleasure is restricted. Think about like how good it feels to do like
to
hip
dance.
circles, to dance, open those hips up. It's so pleasing. And there's a way that we can release the energy there where we can be unstable in the sway, but actually stable because the energy is rooted below us. So,
well, even like, giving birth.
You're like unhinged.
Being with child, yes.
It's like those hips are working on doing something miraculous in the pelvis opening. So there's just so many different ways to look at how the energy of these chakras influences us on all the planes.
Yes, I love it. Yeah. Okay, so the next one is the sacral?
Yeah. The sacral is the abdomen, the low abdomen. So we just talked about that one with water.
Okay.
Then when we go up, the next one up would be our third chakra, which is our solar plexus. So that is, if you put your hands and follow your ribs up to like where your sternum is and your diaphragm. So when we take big belly breaths, our diaphragm should drop on the in-breath to open up that abdomen, and then contract on the exhale to push the air up out of our lungs. So the diaphragm is right behind our solar plexus. So to keeping in connection with these elements, we've got earth in our root, water in our sacral.
Water.
This is fire. So the solar plexus, right? It's sun. So this is our inner flame. This is the divine spark of you, your will force and your drive in life. So this is where you're led to create and to move and to be passionate and to be engaged and to be alive and lit from the inside. So what's your will? What are you wanting? And how do you get it? And so we get to exercise that flame with our breath. When our diaphragm is open and soft and our breath is really dynamic, then we start to open up that solar plexus fire and light. And then we start to really feel that passion in life.
Would that be like if someone's having a hard time with their passion, or like, what should I do for work? Or I'm feeling kind of like lost on purpose. Is there something you can like kind of tune into one chakra and kind of like meditate on or expand on or like concentrate on?
Yeah, you can absolutely examine each of the chakras. And in fact, I wrote a workbook called Chakra Healing, and the whole book is that. It's we go through all of the chakras with exercises that help you understand each individual chakra through the lens of lots of activities, the physical, the mental, emotional, the spiritual, so you can engage with them. And ask questions. And the more we sit with our body and sit with a particular focus on either an organ in the body, like you can sit with your uterus and have a conversation, or connect into your heart, or you can connect into a chakra, an energy center, and start to ask and have a dialogue with yourself and just witness, watch, explore with curiosity, you'll uncover so much information.
Gosh, I love that.
And so if someone's lost with purpose, I don't know what to do with my life, I'm feeling kind of flat, their flame is out.
Yeah.
Then sitting with the solar plexus energy to understand like what's dousing that flame, what's causing that. And it will likely lead you to connect with other chakras and energy centers in the body, but you can zero in and start the conversation. You know, if you're struggling to find pleasure and joy, then maybe you need to lean into that sacral chakra and ask, what's going on? Why am I missing the pleasure boat? You know, and how can I work with that? And so that's solar plexus chakra, you know, what am I passionate about? What do I really want? You know, what's my drive? So
I feel like I need to reconnect to that right now. So I think that's probably why I asked the question. Like, I mean, I know the purpose, I know my purpose, but I've such a dull lull recently that I'm like, I'm waiting for the creativity to come back. I'm waiting for this spark, and I'm like, it's fucking nothing. And I'm all fire in astrology, so it's very funny, which is ironic, you know. But so. Yeah, that's really, and it kind of made me teary when you were talking about it. I'm like, oh, I just love this reaching inside, that there's not this external thing that you need to be alive again, you know?
It's all already inside you. And that tear response for a lot of us, chills or, you know, that kind of mysterious, my eyes are welling up and I don't really understand why, that's an energetic resonance. So that's your an energy intelligence saying, hey Jen, this there's something there.
Yes. Yeah. You guys, surprised this podcast is just for my own healing? No.
We're just gonna do a one-on-one session for Jen.
No, I'm just kidding. I hope you guys get something out of it, but some are, you know, anyway.
I mean, you know, all the things that we struggle with are so universal often.
Yes.
You know, we think that we're in these little worlds, oh, this is my stuff, this is my shit that I'm dealing with and working through. But really, if we just look around, we're all doing the same thing.
We're all suffering. Yeah.
Yeah. We're all finding our way. And none of us are balanced and perfect and dialed in. Not one.
Yes.
You know,
yes,
it's just not the way it works.
We
hit those moments, those peak moments. And when that happens, just drink it in, because you're going to have an opportunity to grow more soon. And that opportunity often comes with some kind of disturbance. And then you get to look at it and go, okay, how am I going to react with this? And the more we do our work, really, I was talking with a friend about this morning, you know, being awake inside doesn't mean that you're living a perfect flow state life all the time. What it means is that you have trained yourself to catch the fall sooner and sooner and sooner. So instead, in the early days, you might fall off that point of balance and really get stuck in the mud. It's up to your neck and it is dry and you're really immobile. And then through the work, you start to lift up and out. And then as you get more practice and you go down the path and you fall over and over and over and over again, you realize that you're falling sooner and you can catch yourself. And it's really about strengthening. I use this
conditioning.
Yeah, I think that looking at our physical bodies is a really great way to understand ourselves emotionally and spiritually as well. So I give this analogy of, you know, I live in Colorado, and when I first moved here, I learning how to snowboard. Yeah. And it was just a shit show. You know, you just fall all the time.
Gives me a lot of anxiety. Yeah.
And I was so surprised the next day after the first time I tried it, that my legs were not the part of my body that was sore and fatigued. It was my arms, because I kept falling and I had to keep pushing myself back up over and over and over again until I figured out that point of balance. And I got stronger and stronger and stronger.
I love that.
My arms got stronger, and then my legs got stronger to hold the balance, and I wasn't falling. Yeah. But I think that that's a great metaphor for just how it is as we grow emotionally and spiritually too, is that we fall a lot. Yeah. And you get stronger every time you pick yourself back up. Yeah. And then you get wiser and you start to notice, there's you're going down the mountain and there's a little swoop and you slip a little, and then you're like, ooh, I slipped, and you can course correct without falling every time.
And a good reminder, which I'm just, again, it's probably speaking to myself, is that I believe that we came here to experience all this shit. You know, the good and the bad, because you cannot feel the good without the bad. And so it's just, but we're all getting stronger in the process.
If it was all sunshine and rainbows and glory.
Boring.
Like, there's nothing to compare it to. So, you know, it's just not as dynamic. I think that's really well said, Jen, that's what we signed up for this. We signed up to explore.
To feel it all.
Our humanity and feel it. And we can't grow without challenge. That's what creates the strength. Yeah.
Okay, so we got fire.
So we've got fire in the solar plexus, and then we go up to our heart. And so the heart,
the green one.
The green one. Yeah, we didn't talk about colors. So the root chakra, let's just kind of go through the rainbow real quick, and then we'll drop into the heart. So the root is red. So that's that deep red root. That's our first chakra. And then our sacral chakra is orange. And then we come up to the solar plexus, and it's, of course, our inner sunlight. So it's yellow.
Yellow.
And then our heart is actually green. So a lot of people think, like, you know, heart is red. Which is like a fun Valentine's thing. But in the chakra system, actually red is at the root and green is at the heart. And I love this because, you know, I'm a plant person. So I think about our earth. And when you look around, the predominant color when you're in a growing season, so like if it's not winter, the earth is green in a lot of places, unless it's water. And we'll talk about that in a minute, the blue. But like the connection that we have to the world, to the energy of the world, to the people around us, it comes from the heart. The heart is a center point of connection. So this is the element of air. So when we think about around our heart, we have our lungs. We're breathing and we're exchanging with our environment through our breath. So this air exchange that comes in, we breathe it in and we exhale out what we don't need anymore. But that exhale is also medicine for the world too. If we think about the way we exchange breath with plants, what they don't want, the oxygen, they off gas, we need, and we inhale it. What we don't want, the CO2 that we breathe out, they need, and they drink that in. And so there's this beautiful synergy that happens. And that's what's going on in our heart chakra. It's our place of connection and compassion and love.
Yeah. Which was interesting because when you're talking, I was thinking of cycles, like life cycles in the green. When you look out in nature, it's like you see things die, grow, sprout. And then when you're talking about the breath and the plants, again, it's this like life cycle. There's a beginning and there's an end. And it's beautiful and it's with love. And I don't know, sorry, that's where I'm at today.
I love that. And also like when is it the end and when is it the beginning? It's this like continuous movement. Because you can't really pinpoint on the earth cycles like now, right? You know, this a definitive line and we've crossed into winter. It's sort of like this wah feeling, this wash into it. And the same as the breath. Like, can you actually, if you watch, this is kind of a fun meditative practice. Can you define the moment where it shifts from the exhale to the inhale? There's like, the line is blurry.
Weird.
It's this constant exchange of energy that pushes and pulls. And so our heart chakra is that connection point. And we feel that when we're with people that we love, when we're in nature. Nature's a really safe place to work with heart because sometimes people can feel tricky. And if you've had a lot of heartache or pain or you've been wounded, you know, it feels sometimes difficult to get into your heart and to work with that energy. And I always find that when that is the case, the safest place to work through heart challenges and compromises is in nature, sitting with your back against a tree and letting the backside of your heart really lean into that tree, or laying on the earth in the grass, or you know, just sitting by a shoreline and breathing into your heart and feeling that exchange, because nature is a safe space for us to do our work with it. And of course, nature's interacting with all the chakras in different ways. Yeah. But I really love the resonance of our heart and the heart healing that we need when we sit with nature.
Which, an important thing you just said, which I think is a good visual, that the energy is going from your front and from your back. Like it's shooting both ways.
Yeah, that's really astute that you catch that. So we often just kind of like think about the front of our body, we don't think about the fact that there's a whole back world there of energy. So all of the chakras, the root is different. It radiates down, but our sacral chakra, our solar plexus, our heart, our throat, our third eye, there's a front door and a back door, or a front point of contact. We can connect with it from any way because it's rotating in a circle around the body. But it's really easy to connect in, through that front place, but also in the back. So it's really nice if you're engaging with any particular chakra. So we were talking about the solar plexus before. There's a backside to that too, kind of mid-back. So find the front part of your solar plexus and then explore. Put your hand on your spine and find like, okay, that feels like that's the backside. And you can start to breathe into an awareness back there.
Yeah.
And you find this really different kind of energy of support when you engage in the back. And what happens when we start to become more aware of the energy in the backside of our body is that we organically have this subtle shift of energy where we start to lean back. Like it's a little physical, but it's mostly energetic. Like I'm going to invite everyone that's listening to, like, you're probably already doing it. Like pay attention to your spine and the back of your body right now, and just take a big belly breath right now. And as you exhale, just imagine that there's an energetic chair back that you can just sort of rest in.
Yikes, it's happening.
Right?
It's like a little taller and a little leaner. Like I'm getting a little taller and I'm moving back.
And do you feel a little bit more composed and
held? I feel like a boss ass bitch.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came
from. It. Well, that is your solar plexus probably coming back online with your fire. So lean into that boss ass bitch energy there. And it's in this way that I love saying, like, this is how the universe literally has your back.
Yes.
Literally, the universe has your back when you really think about and engage in the energy back there. So that can be a full flow of down your spine, down your back. You can just kind of cozy into that energy and let it support you. But you can also really zero in on the back sides of those chakras and feel into that. It's especially helpful if you have physical discomfort in any of those places, along your spine and your back. A lot of people have different places where their body feels discomfort or is compromised. So thinking about the chakras from the backside is really helpful too, and leaning into that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm back, baby.
Yeah, there we go. Look out, world.
Oh my gosh, that was cool. I love that.
Yeah. Another thing I love to think about with the heart is, the heart energy. We've been talking about the energy kind of moving to the backside of our body, but the heart energy opens up across our chest to our shoulders and flows down our arms and into our hands. So our arm-hand connection is really an extension of that loving energy of the heart. And I love to think about this when you imagine you're with someone that you care about deeply and they're expressing pain. What's one of the first things we do? We put a hand on their knee or on their back, or we want to touch them.
Yes.
And that is a way that we transfer the energy and love of our heart to them. God. Same thing with physical injury. Our hands, everyone has healing hands. Every single human. It is part of the design. It's part of the energy anatomy. We are all capable of offering healing energies through our hands, and it comes from the heart. The heart is this middle ground, and that'll make more sense in a minute when we go up through the chakras and I explain a little bit more. But the heart is this meeting of the earth energy and the cosmic or heaven energy comes into the heart.
Wow.
So we get to move both of those things through our heart, down our arms, and through our hands. So we infuse the world with our love into our hands. It's a beautiful thing to think about if you're making something in a creation, making food. You can infuse all of your efforts with this sense of compassionate love through the heart.
And I love that the heart is the middle because it's strong enough to hold both.
Yeah.
Like it's
Ooh, that's good.
it's the strong enough organ or space to bring together and like, oh, it's like, oh my God, I'm so teary. But like
Your heart.
just a beautiful, yeah. Like there's no question in the design is what I'm saying. You know, like it makes sense on so many different levels. It just
Yeah.
really is beautiful.
It's so intricately designed. So we've got
Good.
minor chakras in the shoulders, the wrists, the elbows. And if something is physically happening there, then you might want to take a look also at what's going on in your heart energy. And how are these, you know, as you're looking at chakras, how are they interacting with each other? Because they're meant to be connected and flowing. You know, so if like, oh, there's something going on with my heart, then maybe let me also check in with my solar plexus. How's that going? And then check in with my throat, you know, so that's the next one up. When we go to the fifth chakra in the throat, this is the color blue. And now we're starting to interact with elements that are not of the earth. So this is ether. This is the void, the space of that precedes creation.
Yeah.
So this
Whoa.
throat chakra is really a center of manifestation and creation. And the patterns start to repeat. So if we look at our root chakra, it's structure, it's security, it's form on a physical level, you know, how our physical lives organized. When we come up here to the throat, it's structure, form, and organization, but from a pure place of energy. This is where you know, we all are learning, be careful about the words that you choose because they create realities. You know, when we say something, if we're focused on language that is oriented towards struggle and challenge, and we're unconsciously using that kind of language, then, well, we kind of put that vibration out into our lives and field, and so we get more of that. So that's related here in the throat chakra, but it's also about our inner dialogue too and our thought. It doesn't have to be spoken. So this is a place where if you want to create some change in your life, something different, start to go into the throat and get quiet and let it open up and begin to intentionally choose that structure and form of the energy that comes with language and thought and word. So I really love looking at the throat as the center of manifestation. So it first starts here in the throat before it can go into the physical plane of the root.
It's so interesting because I don't think I speak a lot of manifestations outwardly, which I mean is I feel like there's so many ways to manifest, or you're doing it wrong or whatever. But but I'm just thinking of like, why don't I? You know, and what if I were to kind of open up a little bit more with that? Have I been holding back manifestations? This is very personal, guys. This is not going to resonate with everyone, but
I don't know, Jen. I don't know. It might.
I mean,
it just might. I feel like. Well, like I said before, we all struggle with a lot of similar things. I think that's really common. That this is a place where a lot of people are held back, or they're blocked, or they're stuck in something, stuck in a thought pattern. Our inner voice sort of kind of radiates from there up into the third eye chakra. So like this is a foundational place of energy. And a lot of us don't pay enough attention to this throat energy, right? And so many people have neck trouble, you know, and that connection between the throat and the heart. There's a minor chakra here called the high heart. That's where our thymus gland is. And that thymus gland is vitality. It's the source of all energy. And it's positioned right between our compassionate feeling heart and our creative void in the throat.
Wow.
And then we have this thymus gland here that is life force. On a physical plane, it you know, regulates our immune system. It interacts with the endocrine system. On an energy plane, this is where we feel vital and alive. And we tap into that like big energy. And so it's influenced by these two chakras that are on either side of it. And it's also influencing those two. So a lot of us, I think, don't pay a lot of attention to the throat chakra. But if you're wanting to enact change in your life, you definitely want to interact with that chakra along with wherever else you feel like you need to lean into and kind of work in tandem together with that.
I got a lot of work to do. I'm ready. I'm excited.
Join the club.
Checking some things off. I have direction now, though. That feels good.
Well, I feel like the energy body, the chakras, it's like a map in the body. It really helps us understand ourselves and kind of know how to navigate challenges once you get a little bit more aware of where these power centers lie. And then from our throat, we've got our third eye. So the third eye is interesting if we want to talk about front and back. The third eye is right here in the center of your forehead. The back side, this one is actually on an angle. So the front side of our third eye is here in the forehead. The back side is down here at the base of the head, where the head and neck meet.
Whoa.
Which is a big point of tension, congestion.
Yeah.
Like, everyone just stop for a minute and rub your head right there.
Yes.
It's like, oh, it's so delicious and so relieving. And, you know, a lot of times I'll rub that and I'll feel like a ripple down my shoulders and my neck, my everything opens up.
Yeah.
So we have this front and back lens of the third eye. And this is the element of light. And it's an indigo blue, which is sort of like a purple blue color there. So this is where we connect in with our inner vision and our inner sight. This is where we see and create and understand. So we connect in one aspect that we didn't talk a lot about in the sacral chakra, which is down in our pelvis, is this is a place of our instinct.
Like,
so down in our
intuition?
deep belly, I see a difference between instinct and intuition. So our instinct, our animal instinct, is in our gut. That's right. Yeah. That is like, I'm compelled to do something. It's a really strong physical sense of either magnetized towards something or repelled, and I'm going to move in the opposite direction. And it's very quick and it's very primal, and it's a part of our animal nature, and that lives deep in our belly. So like that phrase that it's a gut instinct.
Yes.
But here we start to refine that instinct into intuition, where we start to see, we start to look through veils of time. We start to look beyond what is presented to us with our physical eyes, and we start to quote unquote see things on a deeper level. And that's where we start to engage in that intuitive knowing of where to go, what's right for us, what we love, what we're attracted to, what we want to create. So that intuitive sight lives here in the third eye. And it's also really connected to that witness consciousness in the mind. So when our mind is full of a lot of chatter and maybe criticism, then it compromises our ability to see clearly with our intuitive sight, you know?
I was just going to say that in a different way. I'm just like, it's so ironic that it's right here when your mind is so freaking loud that you can't even tap into that.
Right. And so that's where meditative processes come in handy. Is like, how do we learn to just quiet that down? And when we get quiet like that in our mind, then that's when our brilliance shines through. That's when we get the idea. We see the solution. We connect with the path.
Yeah.
The more we engage in mindfulness practices, the better we're able to see and hear that intuitive influence.
That's so beautiful. I also have to do that.
Yeah. I mean, all of it, all the things.
Yeah.
And then at the top, to round it out, is our crown chakra. So again, that one radiates up and out like a crown, up toward the sky, toward the cosmos, toward the heavens, the universe, whatever you want to say. Yeah. And this is the element of thought. And it connects us to a higher will force and purpose. So if we're repeating, if you recall, the throat is related to the root, the third eye is related to the solar plex, or excuse me, the sacral, and then the crown is related to the solar plexus. So this is where, when the solar plexus is our personal will and drive, and this is our universal collective consciousness will and drive. This is where we start to tap in to that universal plane of thought and connect into that bigger consciousness that we all are tapped into, that hive mentality. This crown chakra really helps us sort of have that, telepathic type of connection where, if one person has an idea in the world, chances are, even if it's a totally unique idea to them, other people are having that idea, and that idea is sort of being influenced universally through this connection to the crown. Yeah. And it's where we tap into source. So a will and a power and a strength that is greater than we are and holds us up.
What color is that?
This was like a lavender white color.
And then the chakras keep going up?
They do. They go up. I'm not sure about infinitely, but there are people that will identify lots and lots of chakras higher. I typically work with one additional in the eighth chakra, which is kind of a point of differentiation. And the chakras start to repeat again. So now we are back into structure and form. And so that eighth chakra is about a foot above your head. This is where you start to really differentiate from the universal field and become a beam of individual light. And where you start to create structure in like, what am I going to experience in this life? How am I going to create in this life? What things do I need? What key players and experiences are important for my growth that came from before you were, incarnated into this life and this body? So what are you bringing in? What intention and structure did you create before you were conceived and dropped into a physical form in the womb? So that's where we start to connect to that kind of structure and understand those bigger themes in life.
And then it continues same down the root.
Yeah.
Right?
So below our feet, another chakra that I love working with is called the ground chakra. And so that's about a foot below our feet in the earth. So it's a huge anchoring point. This is where we really drop into that stable connection to physical form. So if you're feeling ungrounded, like the life is a big storm and you're just getting blown around all over the place, connecting into that ground chakra is really helpful. So feeling in, just go, close your eyes. I love standing barefoot. You can do this in your house, or you can go, ideally, it's so great to go outside and be barefoot on the earth. Close your eyes and just take a breath and let your energy flow down your body, down your legs, through your feet, and just imagine this ball of light and energy that's holding you like a magnet down into the earth. And it's so calming and stabilizing. So when life feels like a real shitstorm, it's a great practice.
That's a great one. And you told me that. You're like, girl, you need a ground. Do this. And I was like, this is amazing. And I would sway. I would sway. Even if I was sitting, I would be moving. And it wasn't chaotic for me. It felt really cool and good.
Like a boat and anchored in a harbor.
Yes. And I wasn't scared about it. I was like, this feels fucking great. It was and also just otherworldly. It was like the evidence I needed that I am connecting, if that makes sense. That was important for me at that time. So I would recommend that to a lot of people, everyone.
I mean, I think we all need it a lot in modern life because we're just really living in a way that we never have before as a species. So the ground chakra and grounding connection through our legs is so critical.
Okay, what are 3 tips that you could give? I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but if somebody wants to start working with their chakras, what are 3 steps?
I think the biggest first one is just be curious. Start to notice, how often, I'm asked this, rhetorical question for all of us. How often do we stop and notice our body and our energy? And so our bodies are a great entry point. So how often do you notice how your knees feel? Maybe a lot if there's pain there, but how often do you notice the way, here's a great one, the sensation of your feet, the feeling of the bottoms, the soles of your feet touching the floor when you're sitting or standing. And the physical sensation there. Yeah. How often do you look inside? So I think step number 1 is we just have to get curious and be willing to go there and look. Yeah. I think the next thing is really recognizing and accepting that you can speak to yourself through the lens of your body and chakras. So one practice I love is when you identify, you've identified, Jen, a couple places I'd like to lean in there a little bit more. So have a dialogue there. I love having easy ones are the heart. This is a great place, and kind of when in doubt, I guess I'm going to talk about 2 and 3 together. When in doubt, use the heart. So if you're I have no fucking idea what's compromised or where to go. So get curious and start to notice. Be willing to talk with yourself through your body. And when in doubt, just connect to the heart. Because remember, the heart is the middle ground. So it's a great practice to just, put your hands over your heart, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and have a conversation with your heart as if you're sitting with a beloved. Like, hi, have you ever said hello to your own heart? There's a consciousness that lives there.
Yeah.
That lives everywhere. But when we just talk about the heart, there's a consciousness there with so much information. So just sitting quietly and saying hello and saying, I'd like to be more connected. I want to understand you more. And asking your heart or whatever part of your body you're leaning into, is there anything you need? Or is there anything you want to tell me? Any message that you have for me? And when we get curious and we get quiet and we lean in and listen, there's so much information and guidance.
Yeah.
And that's where we really become kind of like our own healer and our own best friend and our own therapist.
Yes.
And, all the things that we get to learn so much when we're willing to just listen and ask questions.
Yeah. I love that. So beautiful. Okay. If people are listening, they're like, okay, I want to know more information about this. How can we do that?
Yeah. Well, one really great way, if you really want to drop into chakra healing and your own healing work, you can check out my book. It's available on Amazon, also Barnes and Noble. I think even Target has it. It's called Chakra Healing. For those of you that can see, I'll give you a visual.
Beautiful.
Chakra Healing. A Guide to Opening, Balancing, and Unblocking Your Chakras by Deanna Gabriel-Vierck.
Yeah.
So this book it's a workbook. So I'm going to take you through exercises that will help you engage in this chakra healing work.
That's awesome.
There is also a course that I created that's a companion to this. And the course is available on a new platform. It's called NABA, N-A-B-A, which stands for the Natural Art of Being Alive.
Oh.
So NABA has so many beautiful courses. It's a transformational wellness membership hub. So when you become a member of NABA, you have access to my chakra healing course. You have access to, at this point, we're working on nearly 50 courses, plus a whole community of people that are alive and there to support transformation and vibration. There's a lot of juice that you can find in NABA. So if anyone has questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. You can email me, Deanna@naba.com.
Perfect.
So DEANNA, and then NABA is NABA. So you can find more chakra healing through the book or through the course. I'm also always welcome people to reach out to me directly if you have some questions. You're welcome to email me.
And we'll put that in the show notes too, all of those links, so you guys can look there too. Yay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you for coming on and helping me through my things.
Thank you for having me.
And educating. You know what's funny?
Always a pleasure.
Is that I have heard you talk about chakras before, and it's everything. Just feel like everything is so complex. So it's I need to hear that again. And tell me more, because I get something more each time. And so I just really appreciate all of your education and experience and love through it all.
Thank you. It was amazing to be here with you. Thanks, Jen.
Of course. We'll see you next time. Okay, bye. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode and are able to understand a little bit more about the chakra system and how to work with them. If you are loving what you're hearing, please give us a review up on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to reach and help others. We'll see you next time.